Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online PTS test video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be checking out the Magicka Nightblade on the PTS and see how they're doing when it comes to parsing and stuff. But before we get started, I want to clarify something. This is for more of the roleplay, casual play players. This is not for in-game players. If you guys are looking for in-game stuff, you're going to have to wait for some of the other people to bring their videos out. They're focused on trying to find the best setups, so that's what they're doing. I don't do that. I just use what's available in the game and I just play the game. So that's why I do the testing the way I do. I do not follow the meta standard. So let's go ahead and get started. With this test I am using a Dark Elf Nightblade, mainly because I play one on live, so that's why. My stats are going to look low because I don't have any food going yet. I am using the Thief of Mundus Stone. When it comes to gear, I'm using Niraneths with Julianus and War Maidens. I figured this would be a good combination to try with on the Nightblade, since Nightblade can take advantage of high spell damage with most of their abilities when it comes to spell damage. So we'll see how things work out when we do the rotation here in a minute and everything else. So the potions and food I'm using is Witch Mother's Potent Brew, Tri-Stat Food, and then I'm also using the spell power pots with tri-pots. I'll probably just mostly be testing with the spell power pots than the tri-pots. The tri-pots are mainly there for if you're tanking or something like that. So, all right. So, I'm not going to go over the traits and enchants with this one or anything. But somebody asked me if I could show the CP. I use what's called a universal setup for CP. So I use a standard CP setup, and as you can see, I need to adjust my resistances here. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to take this down 10, and I'm going to put 10 into here and see if that balances things out more. Yes, it does. It puts it within margin of each other. I like to keep my resistances close to each other, by the way. So, and I will go over this real quick. So I'm using a heavy chest, medium legs, everything else light, and the small pieces are going to be divines. The big piece is infused with tri-stats, and the big chest piece is reinforced heavy. So we are going to start parsing with the Witch Mother's Potent Brew. This way we get the better mag recovery and everything when we use our potions. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and get the rotation started. Oops, I did that too early. Alright, about 25k, so not too bad. I'm going to do another parse. I want to get, I'm going to do parses on this little guy first so I can get a more definitive amount. And before anyone says anything like, oh, when you're in a trial, blah, 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 most casual players and role players don't do veteran trials that often. So parsing on this isn't going to prove anything, just to let you know, okay? Just to be clear. Most casual players fight bosses in normal dungeons, normal raids, or normal trials, things like that. They do veteran trials, but that is a completely different story, and I'm not going to parse on a 3 million dummy just to prove that this thing can sustain. If somebody wants to prove me wrong, please go ahead. This thing has great sustain, works really good. Alright. Potion again, back bar, starting with this. Alright, so about 30k DPS that time, a little bit better. So let's go ahead and take a look at our results here. So 3625 is our spell damage, 61% spell crit, 80% critical damage, and then of course the spell penetration that we get from wearing light armor. Impale actually does pretty good damage. Niraneth was hitting pretty good. Most of our other abilities look like they were doing okay. Alright, let's go ahead and parse on the big guy. Now this is what it would be like if you were in an organized trial group. Just letting you know. And we're going to do just a quick parse on this. People say I need to do a full parse on this. I'm going to let you know. that if I did full parses on most of this stuff, it would literally take me about an hour to do this video or longer. I have no problems doing that, but at the same time, it can just get tedious and long. So I do these tests away from out of camera that you guys don't see, where I do test full parses on this dummy. I will do a full parse on that one and a full parse on that one, just to get more of a definitive idea. So, but let's go ahead and do this again. Potion, back bar. But this time we're going to be using ultimates, and we are going to be using synergies as well. This way you can see what more of the full rotation looks like. So we're getting about 34, 35k DPS with this. Not too bad. Next time I'm going to use the soul tether. And it looks like we're keeping it a pretty steady 35 to 36k here. Not too bad. I was hoping for a little bit more, to be honest. Not that it would mean anything. It would still be about the same. So alright, so we're keeping about a consistent 35, 36k on that guy. Not too bad, I'm not gonna lie. It seems pretty good. And for the people who are wondering about the high spell damage output of certain abilities, I do want to mention this with the world skills and the Undaunted. So people who are claiming to be able to get 90k soul traps, these guys are using everything under the sun to maximize their max Magicka, their max spell damage, everything like that. They are basically 100% glass cannons that have everything into spell damage as maximized as they can get. So they can get these high number results, so that this way they can complain to the devs for a reason. Half the player base will not do that. I'm going to let you know that now. Because what would be the point of using one or two skills when you don't have the sets available that can keep those skills going viably? Here's what Structured Entropy looks like. Now, I will admit, Structured Entropy does do a lot of damage. It does need to be toned down some. I'm going to admit that. But if you compare this to what something like this does 28k damage in total. This does 32k damage in total. So they're very comparable to the amount of damage that they do. Now, this also heals over time, but so does this one. And this one does 10k damage up front, heals every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. And this one does X amount of damage over 10 seconds. This does damage over 12 seconds. And it heals every 2 seconds. That's a big difference. And then when you look at the world skills, the Soul Magic one, this does 28k damage over 10 seconds. Very comparable to Gripping Crippling Grasp. So this one also immobilizes immobilizes enemies and reduces their movement speed. This just does damage, guys. And it has a chance of filling a soul gem if you kill the enemy fast enough. Now, I will admit it does hit multiple targets. And that's kind of interesting that it does that, so. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to go back down here, and this time we're going to switch to the Tri-Stat food and see how we do with this. Because this is going to increase our max Magicka, it's going to increase our max stam, and our max health. But this way we can also see what our so about 27k on that. Now I'm going to let this reset. I'm going to do it one more time. So this way I get a more... And like I said, this is just to represent, guys, what your damage can look like. It doesn't represent what your damage is truly going to be look like, because in dungeons you have to deal with mechanics. That means you have to dodge roll, you have to block, you have to do other things that aren't going to give you a persistent uptime of DPS like this. So remember, these parse tests are just a resemblance of what you can do. That's it. Alright, so again, potion, buffs, buffs. Alright, so that one we did a little less. It doesn't surprise me, to be honest, that I'm doing a little less with this one on that target dummy, and that's because I'm making more mistakes now. So let me go ahead and try this one more time. Because I should actually be able to get up to about 30k with this on the tester dummy. And that's mainly because I've done this so many times, done this test in the past so many times, almost with a similar build, but this one I'm using Nearnith, which is kind of unusual, and I will admit it's actually quite nice for the way it works. One, two, three. Alright, so we're getting about the same, about 24, 25k. Let's go ahead and parse on the big guy and see what this looks like. Now remember, we were able to keep a consistent 25k DPS last time on this, or 35k DPS. Let's see if we can do that again. So get this ready. Little potion. There we go. Let's go ahead and drop that element. We're going to use the Vela Blades again. Wow, really? Here we are. We're actually pulling a lot better DPS now, with more like 40k. So that's really good. So I have to admit, I am liking that it is doing a little bit better DPS. We are having a little bit more sustain issue though, and that's because we're going through a lot more resources, or we're going through about the same resources, but with less management. So that's the problem with using tri-stat food or dual stat food, is it will make your resource management a little bit harder. So, all right. Now that we've seen that stuff, I'm not going to go through the full rotation like I did the last time. I'm going to let it finish off, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up the combat metrics, and we're going to go through that and kind of look at the differences between the two, of the one that was giving us higher DPS to the one that was giving us lower DPS, that kind of stuff. Alright. Excuse me, didn't mean to clear my throat. So we're going to start at the very, very beginning here. As you can see, we had 24k on the first parse, 34k max Magicka, 3600 spell damage. We already went over this, but let's go ahead and see what we did on the second parse. So second parse, we had more crit than we did the first time, so that was what our difference was there. And then on the third parse, where we got, or where we started parsing on the big guy, we actually were doing 34k, but we know we were doing more than that. We were doing more consistent, 35, 36. Spell max Magicka was coming at 37,000 now, with a 4,262 weapon spell damage, 67% spell crit, 80% critical damage, and then of course we have 100% penetration on this one. So we can see here though that our abilities are doing a lot more damage over time. Our Assassin's Will is hitting for some ungodly amounts here. A lot of this stuff is doing really good DPS over time and on hits. It's a little scary. Now I am using an Absorb Magicka enchant on the front bar. Alright, let's move on to the next one. So this is us back on the small skeleton again with the tri-stat food. So we got 26 on the first one, 24 on the next one, 23 on the next one, and then back on the big one where we actually pulled 40k DPS. And here, you're going to see very similar results to what we had last time, but we did get a lot more crits with this, so that's why the damage was showing higher. So we were getting a lot more crits than we were the first time through. So one of the things you have to understand about doing the parse tests and comparison stuff is when you test on target dummies, it gives you a guesstimated idea. And I say guesstimated because it's a controlled environment with a perfect scenario. No dungeon is going to give you a perfect scenario. No trial is going to give you a perfect scenario. Now, a lot of times what happens is people do what's called stack and burn, and what they'll do is they'll have their healer behind their group, and they'll have their healer healing the group, keeping them alive with a bunch of different heals and throwing synergies like crazy and stuff like that, so they can keep the group alive, so that the group can stack and burn and try to kill the boss within a certain time frame. This is what a lot of in-game players do, is they do that because they try to maximize their damage output this way. So it's just, it's normal for most players to try and be the best they can and do things faster than they can. But a lot of the average casual players aren't going to do that. Okay, role players and casual players just don't do that. They're just there to play the game, play the content. And this is a more realistic approach of saying things like this. Like, you're not going to have these kind of DPS output. Your DPS is going to be comparable to this if you can keep a perfect rotation. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So, really interesting to see the results from this and everything. I am going to be doing some more testing with this later on, so I can write down some of these things on my spreadsheet and get more of a comparison stuff going on. So this way I have more of a definitive idea. I will be testing every race, not just Dark Elf. This was just an initial test, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So that is pretty much it for this test video, guys. I hope you guys like it. I hope it was informative. If it was, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.